What's up, everyone? Welcome to This Day in Philly Sports History for January 9th, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Thursday edition of the podcast. Eagles-Packers this weekend. Eagles got some great news at practice yesterday. Jalen was on the field, and I got to say, I've been never so happy to see him on the field, even going back to his first start, that game against the Saints. But Jalen was back. He was practicing in a limited capacity, but I think that has to do with being in the concussion protocol. By all accounts, he looked sharp, brought a lot of energy. He was out there. It was cold. He was out there in short sleeves. He is ready to go. I think everything now, based on the concussion protocol, stems on how he feels today. But by all accounts, looks like Jalen is going to play. And as far as game planning and things like that, Kellen Moore spoke and said that he had been in contact with Jalen, so it's not like Jalen has been out of the building. Apparently, he was also at the walkthrough last Friday for the Giants game, so things are looking up. I don't know if I feel the same level of confidence that everybody else that I've been hearing saying that this is going to be a blowout. There's no way. Look. Would it surprise me if they blow him out? No, I just don't know if I see that. It's just not really the Packers style. But Jalen, back on the practice field, looks like he's going to play. We'll have more on his status tomorrow once we know for sure if he's practicing again today and what capacity. And then Sunday, we will go into our 3 keys to the game. But all is good in Eagles land right now. And I guess the one thing to worry about is, as we talked about yesterday, the rust, and that leads to a recap of yesterday's question of the day. I asked you, should we be concerned that Jalen will be rusty? 57% of you said yes, we should. I mean, there's going to be some rust. This team has, for the most part, all season started off slow. So I think it's going to happen. It's just, how are they going to be able to respond to it? How's the defense going to be able to respond? So thank you, as always, for participating in the question today. Shout out to Joe from Drescher, who said the exact same thing. He was like, yes, he's going to be rusty. There may be some apprehension with having the concussion, but it should, as he gets on the field, a lot of that just tends to go away. And it's really going to come down to the defense and can they keep them in it while Jalen shakes off the rust. So thank you, Joe, for reaching out. And then Bill in Flourtown had similar sentiments. Basically said, listen, set him up for success. We've talked about that a lot this year, especially the last game with Tanner McKee and the game before with Kenny Pickett. And really work on play action. They're going to be expecting you to run, especially early. Get Goddard involved. He's back healthy. So I'm ready. So thanks to Joe from Drescher and Bill from Flourtown for reaching out to speak on the question of the day. There will be another question later in the show. The Eagles did sign Louis Cini, another Georgia Bulldog. He was on the Vikings practice squad. Not really sure where he fits in. He's a special teamer. He was a former first-round pick, played with a lot of the guys in the Eagles locker room. Maybe this is one of those under-the-radar Howie moves that next year pays dividends. He's known to do this stuff. I don't necessarily see him playing and getting significant contributions this week. I don't know as the playoffs progress, but it's an interesting signing moving forward as another former Georgia Bulldog comes into the nest. All right, real quick, Penn State takes on Notre Dame tonight in the first ever national semifinal game. We'll watch this. I'm intrigued by it. But that leads to today's question of the day. Lots of Notre Dame fans out there. Obviously, lots of Penn State fans. Who do you got tonight? Who are you rooting for? Notre Dame or Penn State? I don't care about who you think. If you want to tell me who you think's going to win, that's fine. This is an intriguing matchup, I think. I think these teams match up well against each other, and it should be a good game. But who are you rooting for? I saw a lot of people talking about the old Northeast Philly Civil War. But who do you got? You rooting for Notre Dame? You rooting for Penn State? 267-495-8531. That'll get you into the Back to the Future voice and text line. Get that. Anything else Philly sports related off your chest. Talk Jalen. Talk defense. Talk Georgia Bulldogs if you want. But is it Penn State or Notre Dame? Who are you rooting for tonight? And as much as it pains me to say, I'm probably rooting for Penn State because as a Michigan fan, I hate Notre Dame that much more. But who are you rooting for tonight? Penn State, Notre Dame, first ever national semifinal game for a spot in the national championship game. Let's do some quick housekeeping. Be sure to follow me on all my social media, Jimbo_Mott on Twitter and TikTok, at Philly Jimbo on Instagram. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, you name it, I got it. So be sure to give me a follow there. I've been toying around with posting some different things on the different social media. And then subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mott. Spread the word. Continue to grow this thing. Lots of good things on the horizon here in 2025. I'll keep you posted. I've been mentioning the KYW Fan of the Week. That should be, I'm thinking, next week at some point. But once it drops, I will let you know. And then, of course, we're featured in the On Pattison newsletter, so be sure to check them out. Give them a subscription. Gets delivered right to your inbox. Lots of good Philly sports coverage and takes on that. So the On Pattison newsletter, subscribe to that and have it delivered right to your inbox. And then check out my boys at the Clashing Conferences podcast. Great things with their Sports Fan Network. It's a very innovative sort of thing that they do. So be sure to go check them out. And that is available wherever you get your podcast as well as on YouTube. The OG NFC East crew will drop their playoff special today, so be sure to check that out. And then go to Philly Goat, get the shoes, get anything. Let's get eagled up. I'm pumped for this game. It's the playoffs. This team has a legitimate shot to get to the Super Bowl, so get geared up at Philly Goat. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. That's phillygoat.com. Promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. All right, Sixers escaped, and that's the word to say, escaped with a 109-103 win yesterday against the lowly Washington Wizards. No Joe, no Paul George, no Kyle Lowry. Tyrese Maxey and Guerschon Yabusele led the way. I really like Yabusele. I think that's an underrated move. And kudos to Daryl Morey for making the move. I hope it's somebody that can be a key piece to this team moving forward. If you remember, he had that great Olympics for France, which parlayed that into signing with the Sixers on a one-year deal. I would love to see him. I love his energy he brings, and him and Maxey together. I was watching some of the game last night. I like them together, and then you throw Jarrett McCain in there. Maybe this is the core future for the team once Joe and Paul George retire to the retirement home. But this game, man, they should have blown them out. At one point, they had a 15-point lead, I think, in the fourth quarter. I was dozing on and off in there. But at one point, I think they were up almost 20 points. They had 19 points up in the third quarter. This team without Joe just is it's a completely different team. But I don't know. They are at home on Friday against the Pelicans. Hopefully, we have a Joel Embiid sighting. Just kind of seems weird. He hasn't played many home games this year. So hopefully he comes home and plays against the Pelicans on Friday. That all leads us, though, into our forgiveness. And this week we've had a lot of controversial and tough figures that we've been forgiving as we're trying to bring some good karma and good vibes to the Eagles as they get set to take on the Packers. So far it's working. Looks like Jalen's going to be okay. But today, we're going to forgive Brian Colangelo. And you know what? Actually, no. Scratch that. We're going to forgive the entire Colangelo family. And literally the entire family. And you know his dad, Jerry. His wife we're going to forgive as well. But if you remember, Jerry Colangelo was hired by the NBA to be the chairman of basketball operations for the Sixers when all the teams were bitching and complaining about the process and how the Sixers were tanking and all of that. Not long after Jerry came in a great move of nepotism, Brian was hired as the president of basketball operations. So he had a new chairman, new president, and then once Jerry came in, Sam Hinkie resigned. So like, I'm out of here. They kind of forced him out. But Jerry Colangelo specifically was only here a little over 2 years. But man, what an eventful 2 years it was. He officially killed the process, drafted Ben Simmons, and then got duped by Danny Ainge, swapped the third pick for the first pick, took Markelle Fultz instead of taking Jason Tatum, traded Nerlens Noel, which it would have been a serviceable piece off the bench to go with Joe on some of those teams, but Nerlens was kind of like one of those people that was the face of the process, one of those early picks by Hinkie. But that's not even the fun stuff. The fun started after all of this went down, and he started, random people started ripping Sam Hinkie, Joel Embiid, Jahlil Okafor. There was even some sensitive team info that was leaked. Turned out that Jerry's wife created Twitter burner accounts to try to sabotage the Sixers for some reason and disparage the process, specifically Joe and Sam Hinkie and Jahlil Okafor. Of course, Jerry denied it, but ultimately he resigned. Brian denied it and eventually resigned due to all of the allegations. So today, I am forgiving the Colangelo family for being duped by Danny Ainge and giving us Markelle Fultz instead of Jason Tatum, which really would have changed the face of this Sixers team. I forgive his wife and him, because there's no way he wasn't involved in this, for the burner Twitter accounts. I forgive Brian for Ben Simmons. I forgive him for wearing his big collars with no tie and a sports coat. And most importantly, because if you are a longtime listener of here or know me outside of the podcast, you know I am the bus driver for the process. So Jerry, Brian, and Mrs. Colangelo, I don't know her name, I forgive you for officially killing the process, because I don't care what anybody says. Had Sam Hinkie been allowed to cook and do what he was doing, I think the process would have worked. The fact that the Colangelos came in and sort of stopped his momentum, because I don't think there's any way Sam Hinkie trades that third pick. If anything, for the first pick, if anything, he trades the third pick for future first-round picks. So we may have Jason Tatum if it wasn't for the Colangelos. But in order to get the good vibes, get that negativity out of here, get that negative energy, maybe this brings some good luck to the Sixers, brings some good luck to the Eagles. Jerry, Brian, Mrs. Colangelo, I forgive you for killing the process, for your stupid big collars, drafting Ben Simmons, and the burner accounts, getting duped, and all the other stuff that you did. I forgive you. We're going to be the bigger person here in 2025, and I forgive you, Brian Colangelo. Flyers in action tonight at the Wells Fargo Center against the Dallas Stars. Should be a good test for them. Really, I'm looking for them to keep that energy going and that vibe going for them. But that is tonight at the Wells Fargo Center. All right, today we're going to continue our theme this week of last games as an Eagle, sort of the end of the road. If you want to get the boys to men, we talked a little bit about Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson yesterday. You want to get boys to men singing End of the Road in your head, now would be a good time to do it. But on this day back in 2010, the Eagles lost to the Cowboys 34-14 in the divisional round of the playoffs in what would be Donovan McNabb's last game as an Eagle. And if you remember this game, he came out, it was the first year at AT&T Stadium. He came out playing the air guitar and messing with the Cowboys fans as they were coming out, and then proceeded to just stink the joint up. And for me to say McNabb stinks, again, if you're a longtime listener to this podcast, you know not only do I drive the process bus, I drive the Donovan McNabb bus here in Philly too. But honestly, Donovan was terrible in this game. 19 for 37, 230 yards, a touchdown, an interception, and a fumble. The rest of the team didn't help him out, though. The Eagles couldn't run the ball. The lone bright spot, I guess, was Michael Vick came in a wildcat play and threw a 76-yard bomb to Jeremy Maclin, kind of giving us a glimpse of what was to come in the next coming years. The defense didn't fare much better. Felix Jones ran all over him for 148 yards, including a 73-yard touchdown. Tony Romo, 244 yards and 2 touchdowns. It was just a brutal, brutal game. After the game, the papers were questioning whether Donovan would be back. They were playing the blame game. Is it Andy? Is it Donovan? He only had 1 year left on his contract at that point. And as we know, he ended up getting traded to Washington. I think it was around Easter that offseason. But that 2009 team had so much promise. They were coming off of the NFC Championship, surprising NFC Championship run against the Cardinals. They were 11-4 going into the final week of the season. All they had to do was beat the Cowboys at home to win the division. I don't think they were in play for a bye, or they may have been actually at 12-4. But they lost to the Cowboys, got shut out that game at the link. And then, obviously, they lost the next game to the Cowboys. They lost to the Cowboys 3 times that season. So 2009 was just a brutal, brutal year. But on this day, in 2010, Donovan McNabb played his last game as an Eagle, losing to the Cowboys 34-14 in a game that really, truthfully, wasn't even as close as this. I mean, it was a 20-point loss. But that game was way more of a blowout than 24 points. So Donovan McNabb's tenure as an Eagle came to an end this day back in 2010 at AT&T Stadium. Be sure to let me know who you're rooting for tonight. Penn State, Notre Dame. Who do you got in the Northeast Philly Civil War? I heard some people say the Delco Civil War, but lots of Penn State fans, lots of Notre Dame fans. Should be an interesting one. And don't do anything stupid. More importantly than anything, if you're a Penn State or Notre Dame fan, don't be an idiot. I tell you that all the time, but don't be an idiot. We will have more on Jalen Hurts' condition as well as the Eagles-Packers as we move through the weekend. Have an update on the Flyers. Jerry Colangelo, Brian Colangelo, Mrs. Colangelo, the entire Colangelo family. I forgive you for just 2 years of complete and total debauchery. And I also forgive you for the big, wide collars. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for January 9th, 2025. My name is Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Thursday, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.